Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here this evening. So, I want to welcome you to the Elevate Her inaugural Women in STEM session tonight. I have with us Kim B. Miller. She's a multidisciplinary artist, award winning poet, and dynamic speaker. I had the pleasure of listening to her at the Women's Summit this past year and was just blown away. As the first Black poet laureate of Prince William County, Manassas, and Manassas Park, Virginia, she captivates audiences with her powerful spoken word and haiku. Kim has performed at renowned venues across the U.S., delivered keynote speeches at major conferences, and will take the TEDx stage in May. Her work has been widely published, and she's a sought after facilitator and host dedicated to making the arts accessible to all. Kim, we're so excited to have you here. So thank you so much, and we can't wait to hear more.
Thank you, Shelley. Thank you so much. Good to see you again. And yes, we did have fun at that conference. So, yes, that was a good time. So, hi, everyone. Good to virtually meet you. And I'd like to go straight into a little bit about me. So, you heard some things about me. But when I say a little bit about me, today I'm going to be talking about how to keep pushing forward when you keep hearing no. And people think because you have achieved some things, because you've done some things, because you've gotten from A to B, or as far as they're concerned, from A to Z, because outside looking in, the grass is always sweeter, as I say it is. But there's a lot of no's that come on everybody's journey, including mine. So I'm originally into telecommunications and started out in provisioning of circuits. So, yes, I'm on that STEM track as well, or was, I should say. And went into also director of operations for a marketing company, mystery shopping area. So I've done different things. And then I moved into my real calling, which is talking. So I was the girl who got talked too much on the report card, and the teacher was accurate. But talking and getting to know and all that, it's one of those things that people don't want to talk about. It's like, well, I'm supposed to get a yes. And what universe? We have set ourselves up for failure, and then we push ourselves into failure, and then we act like we don't know how we got here. What do I mean? I'll talk about me for a little bit, and then I'll get more into the subject. So when I got into spoken word and facilitating and speaking, there was a area where you can get a lot of no's and get a lot of rejection. And if you're not ready for that, you set yourself up for failure. And then what happens is, in your role of protecting yourself, so you think, what you do is actually limit what you can possibly be good at, limit what you possibly can become because of your own fear. So when I heard about being a poet laureate for my area, I said, poet laureate, that sounds kind of interesting. I looked into it. I said, I could do that. So I applied for it. It's every 2 years. So in 2018, I applied for it. I didn't get it. I was upset, salty, disappointed, all the things you could think of when you go for something and you don't get what you think is right for you at that time. And I told myself, well, I'm not applying again. I'm not doing it. What's the point? I got to know, maybe they don't, maybe not looking for me, maybe not looking for someone like me, maybe they don't want spoken word, maybe, every negative that I could think of, that's what I told myself. So one no can be turned in your mind to several no's. And this is an internal dialogue that people don't hear. So no one can talk you out of your internal no's, because a lot of times you're not saying it to people. This is just a conversation you're having with yourself, as this conversation was I had with myself. So I told myself, nah, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it again. I'm not trying again. So I didn't for a while, and was getting close to the deadline to apply. So it's 2 years later, around 2020. And I'm like, the Lord's like, do it. I'm like, ah. So finally, long story short, I did apply, and I was chosen to be the poet laureate. And I say all that to say, if I had stayed in my head with the internal dialogue I had written and no and and maybe they don't want, and all these things that are not necessarily true, and they could have been true. But you will never get something that you didn't apply for. Then what happens is you don't apply, you don't get it, and then you blame the system because you say, oh, well, they didn't pick me, but you didn't apply. So I get the no's can be scary, no's can be disheartening, no's can knock down your confidence, but a no is not a period. I'm going to say it again. No is not a period. So I've gone on to do different speeches and facilitation at different great places, performed at phenomenal places, and I still get no every week. Every week is either someplace I wanted to perform or a place that I sent a poem in that I thought would be a great place to showcase it. No. A place I thought, and I don't do anthologies anymore, but when I did anthologies, like my poem included in this anthology, no. Literary magazine, no. I'd like to perform at this particular venue, no. Can I be featured here? No. I get a lot of no's. But that no doesn't define my ability. That's where we make the wrong connection. We go, if I got to know, that means that I'm incapable. If I got to know, that means I'm horrible. If I got to know, you're making associations with no that don't go with no. I get it. But you're saying, oh, rainbows and sunshine. Oh, no. You will never, ever, ever hear me say, everything is great. No, everything isn't great. Some stuff you're going to have to work through. Some stuff you have to get in your head. And some stuff you have to get out of your head. But accepting the no does not make it rainbows and sunshine. It makes it truth. It actually makes it truth. Because one thing that people have not realized is failure is part of success. Failure is part of success. You don't have a chance of succeeding if you didn't take a chance at failing. There's no smooth path. There's no path you're going to take where you're always going to get a yes. That path does not exist. So the best thing you can do is to accept that I'm going to get some no's. Failure is part of success, but that does not define me as an entire person. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, so don't come for me and be like, well, you're making it sound so simple. It isn't that simple. But if you never start, if you never have this conversation with yourself, if you never call yourself out and say, hey, you're doing that. You're doing that. I didn't get this one thing. I'm horrible. You're doing that. Then you can't stop it. It's really taking that time to realize what you're doing about you, what you're saying about you, how you feel about you, and how you're taking the no and the rejection and making it your identity. Your situation is not your identity. It's not. And in order for you to get a yes, there's no way for you not to occasionally get a no. It's just not impossible. Let's go over what no does not mean. It does not mean you're a complete failure. It does not mean you should give up. It does not mean you're in the wrong field. What could no possibly mean? That wasn't a good fit for you. Not the right timing. Maybe you took the wrong approach. And let me go over that not great timing or not great fit thing. So one time I went for this job. This was years ago when I was in telecommunications. And I wanted this job. I read the description. I said, this job is for me. It's written for me. We've all said this to ourselves. I went for the job. I didn't get the job. Devastation. I was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe I didn't get this. This job was mine. It was for me. It was written for me. It sounded perfect. I don't get it. Anyway, long story short, I end up working at the same company in a different capacity. They hired me later in a different job. I met the person who got that job that was mine. And when I tell you that lady was miserable, If you looked up misery in the dictionary, her picture was there. Her boss was not friendly. He was micromanager. He was nitpicky. No matter what she did, it couldn't be right. But see, that was a job. That was a job I wanted. Now, the job I actually got, my boss was fantastic. I had a great team. The people I worked with were great. The intricacies of the job and the knowledge, it was right down my alley. So if I got the job that I was so determined to get that I thought was a disaster that I did not know, I would have been just as miserable as she was. Sometimes your no is preventing you from a heartache that you're not aware of. And I know since you don't know it, you have no way of knowing that. I do get that. But I want you to be aware of sometimes there's no's, there's good no's, and there's bad no's. So. And lastly, as far as some reasons why you could get a no, they think you're too fantastic. Oh, yes. You're not included in the program, not hired for the job, not picked for the project because you're lousy. Sometimes they see something great in you. They see greatness. They see possibilities. They see you're very intuitive. They see you're very go-getter. They see excellence in you. And I'm going to do this haiku. I should have told you what haikus are in the beginning. So I'll be doing haiku and kimisms. Kimisms are just my sayings. I had to call them something. And haiku are Japanese poetry. Traditional ones are only on nature. Non-traditional ones could be on any subject, and all of these will be non-traditional. I say haiku before each one, so you know I'm doing one. Haiku. Sometimes you're not invited because you're great, and they're just good. You made the assumption that you weren't good enough. That's why you were not chosen. That may not be the case. And sometimes we look at stuff, I don't call it rose-colored glasses. I call it blacked out glasses because we don't see the truth. Let me use LeBron as an example. I don't know of anybody, and you say I'm not into basketball, me neither, but we all know who LeBron James is. Well, not all of us. Majority of us know who LeBron James is. So that's why I use him as an example. LeBron is an excellent basketball player. Some call him the greatest of all time, the GOAT. I would agree with that assessment. If you don't argue with me. It's my opinion. And he has so many awards and accolades. I think he just passed 50,000 baskets he's made. I mean, the man is phenomenal. But now let's look at the other side. No one's going to take away from his excellence. So I could spend the whole time we have here talking about all the things he's accomplished. But let's flip that for a minute. He's missed over 12,000 shots. And he has 4 rings, but been to 10, I think it was, finals. So that's 6 rings he lost. But no one calls him a failure. No one calls him a failure because he persisted to success. Yet you will stop and condemn yourself and call yourself every negative name you can think of because you make a mistake. But the people who you watch in sports, the people who you listen to in music, the people who you watch on TV, et cetera, have had numerous failures, but you don't consider them a failure, but you put yourself in the failure category because you don't accomplish one of the things that you have on your task list. You get that no, and you let it become who you are. When LeBron didn't get his first, when he lost that first finals, did he stop? No. He's missed 12,000 times. I'm rounding. This is over his whole career. But he's nobody's failure. He's gotten no's. I'm sure he's probably wanted to go to a team and maybe they said, no, not right now, contract, amount of money to spend, etc. We have got to stop looking at other people who we deem successful as perfect because they've gotten no's. But we want to look at ourselves with such criticism, such detailed ripping down. A no is not a curse word unless you make it one. So we talked about LeBron, and no, don't worry, this is not going to turn into a sports thingy because I'm not a sports head like that. So we won't be doing that. Next, we're going to talk about a little bit about fear. Because one thing about fear that I don't think we address enough is that it's self-made. It's also natural, but it's self-made. We make our own fear. Now, don't get me wrong. Sometimes we are seeded with fear. What do I mean by seeded with fear? Your mother told you wouldn't accomplish anything. Your father told you, a step-parent, a grandparent, a brother, sister, a sibling, an ex, unfortunately a current significant other, told you something negative. So they may have planted the seed of fear. And now you're watering it. The problem is, if we don't understand that we're the one watering it and creating the fear, then we will act helpless in our fear and do nothing to address it. Fear is natural. Letting it control your life, that's when it becomes unnatural. That's when it becomes overwhelming. That's when it becomes too much. To walk in your fear and say, I'm not perfect. I'm not where I want to be. I'm not exactly where I should be. Normal. Oh, I'm scared. What happens if they say no? We all get that. Even though people tell you, I don't get scared. Yes, everybody has some fear in some form or another. But understand that you create the fear. Since you create the fear, you are the one who can banish it. Now, am I saying you can walk through this life fearless and you'll be good to go? No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that since you create the fear, you can limit its use and how it is used if you start examining where the fear came from. And you can still succeed despite it. I believe in giving your fear a name. I call my fear Miranda because she has the right to remain silent. Name your fear. I tell her, take a bag. Hey, Miranda, guess where we going today? Yeah, I got a gig and such. So, pack up, we're going. You don't have to pretend like fear is not there. You don't pretend like love and hope is not there. So don't pretend fear is not there. Fear is real. Deal with it head on. Make a plan for it and address it. But the fact that you're fearful doesn't limit your possibility to be successful. And that's what I love about success. Success is just not for the bold. Success is not just for those who walk in with a certain level of confidence, as they say, confidence. It's for everybody. Haiku. It's okay to be scared. Do it anyway. Scared people succeed too. You can still be scared and successful. Don't let anybody tell you anything differently. Sometimes you'll see people and you don't know that they're even, the hands are shaking as they're talking, or they have reminders in their headset and all those things because fear takes over them. Just because you don't see the fear does not mean the fear is not there. So as you grow and you're going into different relationships and friendships and different acquaintances in your life, you have to understand that some people do not want you to grow. Some people don't want you to outshine them. So it's not that some people don't think you're capable. Some people think you're a little bit too capable. But don't act small. See, that's what we get. Well, I don't want so-and-so to feel any way about it, so I'm just going to act, quieter and shyer. And no, don't dim your light. Be who you're supposed to be. Act in a way that you feel comfortable. Don't get comfortable changing yourself for other people. Haiku. You cannot be an anchor for them and swim too. Drowning ain't a flex. What am I talking about? Some of you have stopped what you're doing. I'm going to be everything for this person. I'm going to do all they need. I'm just going to be their go-to, their anchor, the one they need for everything. No. You weren't put on this earth to be an anchor for someone else. And you can't be an anchor for them and swim too. You can't do both. Now, am I saying don't help people? That's not what I'm saying. Absolutely help people when you can, but you also have to help yourself. And you can't be a background singer in your own life. You have to be willing at some point, at some times, to put yourself first. There's going to be times where juggling different things in life, totally understandable. There's going to be times where you're not first. But if for your entire life, you're on the back burner, you have to reevaluate what you have in the front burner. Back burner, front burner is just an analogy on who's in the front, who's in the back, who's taking precedence, and who's secondary. You shouldn't be secondary your entire life. And you can encourage those around you, but you can't be the anchor for them. And you also have to realize that some people are going to be a little bit more needy than others. And while you're trying to be helpful and help them in their neediness, that shouldn't negate you living your life. You're not the person to complete someone. You're not the initiator of anyone's happiness. You're the initiator of your own happiness. If you give someone that ability, you're giving them too much responsibility. Haiku. If you give them the key to your joy, when they leave, they can take the lock. So I need so-and-so to make me happy. I need so-and-so to complete me. I need so-and-so to get all this stuff done. When I get a no, start with that. Start with that. Getting rejection is tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I'm not going to make it simpler than it is. It sucks. That's the bottom line. But as I told you an example from that job, it sucked a lot less when I figured out, that job was going to be horrible. My boss said that job was going to be horrible. So you don't know what you don't know. So here are some suggestions to handle rejection and to keep moving forward. So we talked about some things. So let's go over one. Reflect on the experience. So take some time to assess the situation. Did you get specific feedback? Because sometimes when you get a no, depending on different areas, when you are presenting for a book or an anthology or something, they may give you feedback as to why they didn't pick you. Depends on what field you're in, whether or not you get feedback. If you happen to get feedback, use that feedback. Reflect on it. Is it accurate? Don't breathe in something that's not for you. First, use discernment to see, is it accurate? If it is, address it accordingly. Do better the next time. If it is not accurate, understand that you may have been judged incorrectly. Now, I know that a lot of them do not get feedback. There's very few who do. But if it is, provide it. Use it constructively, not as a weapon. Even if you found out it is right, that's not the beat up time. It's the lesson time. 2, don't take it personally. Rejection is often about circumstances beyond your control, not about you as a person. It's usually not a reflection on your worth or abilities. So that no does not mean you are a failure. No does not equate to you being nothing. I'm going to say it again. A no does not equate to you being nothing. You may not have been a fit for them, or maybe you can't do it with them. I saw this meme that really hit home for certain circumstances. And it basically said, when I get a no from a particular person, it does not mean I can't do it. It means I can't do it with them. Keep that in mind. It may mean you can't do it with them, not that you can't do it at all. Or it could be a timing issue. Next, focus on self-improvement. Use rejection as an opportunity to grow. If it's a job, a project, a gig, or whatever creative pursuit you were doing, enhance your skills in that area. Enhance your skills in that area. Don't just go, well, I'm the greatest, don't Muhammad Ali me. I'm the greatest. Okay, let's say you are. You still got to sharpen your skills. The thing I love about watching some of the people in sports and different things, and they tell me, well, I still practice 5 hours a day. I still have a voice coach. I still have an acting coach. So don't think you're so great that you still can't learn. That's a dangerous area when you have labeled yourself so great, so good at what you're doing that you no longer need instruction. You no longer can learn. You got it all. You never want to sit in so much conceit that you can't grow. Everybody's a learner. Doesn't mean you can learn from everyone, but everyone is a learner. Next focus, build emotional resilience by focusing on what you can control. This gets a little bit difficult. Keep pursuing your goals even if progress feels slow. The most successful people are often the ones who didn't give up after facing multiple rejections. Now, when they talk about building emotional resilience, we're talking about not being, again, fake happy. It's about understanding that when I apply for whatever this is, school, job, project, creative endeavor, there's a chance I could get a no. That no, how would I react? How will I react? What am I putting in place if I get a no? Because sometimes some of us just need to have a plan in place. Okay, if I get a no, I will do this. If I get a no, I will plan to do this. Maybe I'll go to my friends. Maybe I'll take a little me time. Maybe I'll go away. Maybe I'll double check my work to see if I put my best foot forward. If I feel like I really put my best foot forward, then I'm going to have to take that no, absorb it, and say, maybe that's not the right person. Or maybe that is the right person, but it was bad timing. There's people I've approached, got a no, a firm one, by the way. And then later on, they reached out to me and said, hey, Kim, we would like for you to come to such and such. We would love for you to do such and such. So if I had taken a no and been all my friends, oh, they hate me. Oh, they don't like me. Or they don't respect what I do, or I'm not their cup of tea, or whatever, fill in your own self-made excuse, you may miss an opportunity when that person comes back when the timing is right for them. There is such a thing as bad timing. There is. And also, I suggest that when you're examining the timing of things, that sometimes your timing matters. What do I mean by that? Was this something you really wanted to do, or did you see it someplace and say, that would look great on my CV? That would look great on my resume? Was it more about that than actually doing it? So timing hits both ways. Check your reason why you're applying for it in the first place. Celebrate small wins. While big successes feel great, and we all like the big ones, the notable ones, and all that great stuff, small victories matter too. Did you improve your application or your pitch? Did you get further progress in time compared to the last? Celebrate those moments of progress. Make sure you're counting your steps to victory. Because as I say, Kimism, you will never count something as a victory that you did not count as a step. So if you look over the small victories, well, they didn't want me for the keynote, but they wanted me to be a speaker. Step. Keynote, step. No, speaker, step. Yes. you have to be able to see your small victories. You have to be able to see that this was a invitation that came to me last night. I stayed up, got a great presentation together. They didn't accept it, but look at the progress I made to be able, in several hours, to be able to come up with an excellent presentation that I'm proud to submit. Acknowledge the small steps. Acknowledgement counts. Check your approach. If one avenue isn't working, try a different approach. Maybe you're applying for the wrong jobs, pursuing a project that's not resonating, or using outdated strategies. Adapt, change tactics, and try again. Adapt, change tactics, and try again. Don't just go, well, this has always worked for me, or this worked for me the last 5 times. It may not work this time. That's all. We're not saying the other times because it worked for you, you should never use them again, but you have to adapt to the situation, adapt to who you're talking to, adapt to what you're applying for. Find inspiration from others. And this is something I highly recommend. So look up stories of successful people who face rejection. So we all have somebody we admire, whether it's a singer, someone who plays instruments, comedian, spoken word poet. I could go on and on. The list is endless. Who we admire, who we think is successful. Go look those people up and find out their failures. Just like I looked up LeBron. Find out their failures. Because right now you're looking at, oh, wow, he's so perfect, or she's so perfect, or they're so perfect. No, they aren't. They've had a lot of mistakes. They've had a lot of problems. They just persisted. You only know the success story that, probably the PR team spun out so that you could focus on it and think this is the road you want to follow. But is it? You really need to know what that person didn't do well, the times they didn't get the roles they wanted, the time they weren't accepted when they wanted to sing a song, because there's a process to that. All those things. Find out how those people did it. Find out how they failed. Because then when you look at them, you look at them differently. Not that you won't look at them as still as successful as they are, but you look at them with the good and the bad. You look at them as a whole, complete person, instead of this victorious statue that you made them into. Because there's a lot of flaws in there, and there's a lot of things they've done wrong. And for some of them, they've lost everything and rebuilt. Check those people as well. Look them up. Check and see not just the, as I call it, the obvious failures. Check for the ones that kind of will require a little digging so that you can really see that person as a whole. And you'll be surprised how their journeys can inspire and motivate you to keep going. Because once you find out some of the real stories of these people, and you find out how they started and how they got to where they are, and how, this person was bankrupt, and this person, the agent took advantage of them, and this person was supposed to get this particular deal, but it never went through, and this person was promised this money, but somebody stole it, and the bank closed, and then you can get just a grain of sand of what they've been through. And then that'll give you a more realistic vision when you look at them. Not just this one-sided greatness, but resilience. Next, take care of yourself. It's easy to get burned out and get discouraged, and you got to make sure you take some me time. Physical, mental health matters. Take you some breaks, get you some water. I know I'm not a lover of water either, but I drink it. Make sure you're getting some sleep. I know for those of you who don't like, I ain't exercise, I get it, but exercise is helpful. It really is. A complete healthy you is better to take care of those challenges that comes your way. It's not an end all. It's not I'm healthy, wealthy, and wise, so I won't get any rejection. Not quite, but at least that helps you when you're mentally, physically, and all those other things in the right frame of mind and in the right place. Next, keep your eye on the goal. Remind yourself why you're pursuing this goal. Stay motivated by thinking about the bigger picture, but also don't forget, count those steps that got you there. Don't just skip over that and say, I haven't done anything. Remember those steps that got you there. Each rejection can be a stepping stone toward the ultimate success. You don't know that it's not. Before you go, it may not be, and it may be. You're right. It could not be, but it also could be. And you'll never know if you just give up and say, well, I just don't see it, so I'm just going to stop. I'm not saying it's easy. I'm just saying it's necessary. Next, stay persistent. Now, this is difficult. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Sometimes the key to overcoming rejection is sheer persistence. It's just, I'm going to keep going. That first no, okay, fine. Second no, fine. Third no, it's not fine. Fourth no, dag. Fifth no. Seventh no. Eighth. 10th. Should I still be doing this? 12th. 14th. I'm still going to keep going. Everybody's got to know. Everybody's got several no's, especially when you looked up whoever you admire. Remember I told you earlier, whoever that person is, even if it's something personal in your life, a parent, grandparent, someone who you met personally, find out their failures and explain to them why you want to know. Because if not, they'll leave it out. I'm just going to be honest. You go to someone and say, tell me about your life. They'll tell you all, no, and everything was great. And I did this. And you say, oh, so you never failed. So you don't understand what I've been through. Oh, I failed a lot. So explain to them you want the complete picture if it's someone personal in your life. So you can get that and you see how persistent they are. Because sometimes we see people and we just think, oh, they haven't gone through that much. So, that's the big deal. But they've gone through a lot. They just wear it well. Just because someone's strong doesn't mean they don't need to be lifted up every once in a while. Strong people need to be acknowledged too. Strong people need to be checked on too. Remember that. But my so-and-so is still strong. My friend, my mom, my dad, my advisor, my mentor, everybody needs help. Everybody needs to be checked on. Everybody needs to stay persistent. Nobody gets there from that first time try. Unless there's, other things associated with which you're not privy to. In general, it's persistence that gets you there. Your persistence. Your ability to say, I wanted that, but I'm going to keep going. I'm going to alter it if I need altering. I'm going to keep the path because that wasn't the right person for me. That wasn't the right timing. But I'm not going to stop doing what I do because I got to know. It could just, I know this again, I know all this sounds like, oh, well, but I really want you to get that rejection can lead you on a path that you never would have taken that'll lead you to your victory. And you would be like, I never thought I'd get to it this way. That's the point. You were so stuck on, I have to go this way. This is the way I see it. This is the only way I can do it. This is the only way I can succeed. There's more than one road to success. Be open to the other roads. Be open to the other roads and the other ways to get to those roads, to get to your victory. Doesn't mean you were wrong. Doesn't mean your plan was flawed. Sometimes we all have to take another path than the one we originally thought was the way to get there. And we've seen that through some of the people we say are the greatest. They've taken other paths as well. And as you go through these no's, you're going to figure out that, unfortunately, some people you got to let go of. Some people are only meant to be with you for a little while. Some people say the season. And sometimes we are so determined to keep these people in our lives that there's some of the baggage that's holding us down while we can't get to success. Chemism. Some of you are too busy explaining your journey to someone who will not be going with you. You're trying to get your friend to understand that this is it. I know you don't see me as such and such, but this is really what my calling is. This is what I was put on this earth to do. I don't think you should do that. I just don't blah blah blah. That's so extra. That's so blah blah blah. You always have to be over the top. Why can't you just do something? Sometimes you can't bring everybody with you on your journey to success. I wish you could bring everybody you wanted to bring, but sometimes you just can't. There's people out there whose sure point, as I call it, is to take joy. That's the whole point. That's the whole existence. Wow, you look happy. Let me come along and take that away. Wow, you look like you're about to accomplish something. Let me go plant the seed of doubt. Wow, you look like you're about to be something that would make me look a little bit smaller. Let me knock you off your path. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you have to watch out for. Is that fair? No. Is it true? Absolutely. Is it everybody's truth? No. But you have to be aware of who you're surrounding yourself with, because some of you are getting no, not based on your own capability, but based on your crowd. Because some of you don't have a circle, you have a noose. You got to figure out, are these people in my corner with me, or are they fighting against me? And it's okay if you outgrow people. It's going to happen. But letting them push you off your path and be some of the reasons why you got to know, that's when you're, as I call it, your radar and aware needs to go into, alarm mode and say, wait a minute, something here is off. Haiku. Be who you are, not to impress, but to inspire. Let your greatness drip. You don't have to prove yourself to them. You don't have to make yourself smaller. You don't have to do any of that. You need to be you. You being you is not proving anything to anybody. It's you being greatness because you know it's in you. So don't waste time doing that. Make sure your light and what you have planned is strictly about what you are capable of doing and the path you set forth for you. The path that's going to include some no's. It's not going to be smooth. You're going to have some detours. You're going to have some mountains to climb, some valleys to walk through. But in the end, whether or not you make it or not is ultimately up to you, and whether or not you are willing to be persistent despite the no's. Persistent despite the doubt. Persistent despite the fear. Because all the people you admire have walked with that same doubt, that same fear, and kept going. So I always try to figure which haiku to leave you with. I have a couple I think I'll do, and then we'll see if there's some questions. If not, I'll do FAQ. Haiku. Though it ends in S, happiness is not plural. All you need is you. That's all you need to start. Your seed of happiness is you. Haiku. If you are not racing against yourself, then you're on the wrong track. Your competition is old you. Not so-and-so, not so-and-so. Not. Your competition is old you. That's it. So if you're not racing against yourself, you're on the wrong track. Get on the right track. Decide who you are, who you aren't. Check who you're surrounding yourself with. Use discernment. Has this person ever said anything kind to me? Has this person ever said anything joyous? Is everything always a pull down or let down or what I'm not or what? Start using your discernment to see who you're surrounding yourself with, because part of your no may start with them.
Thank you so much, Kim. That was so inspiring. I'd love to see if our audience may have any questions for Kim directly. I know I have one,
Okay.
but I'll hold just in case. I don't want to stomp on anyone. We'll give it just a moment.
All
One
right.
one of the things that did come to mind that you talked a lot about was this idea of persistence. And you talked about knowing who the people are that we admire and understanding their journey. And I'm curious, who was a person that you learned about to understand the no's that they went through in order to help inspire you to continue persisting?
Actually, mine wasn't a person, it was a company. And
Oh,
I know this is going to sound strange, but I had I was looking up something, and I have a cleaner at the house called 409. And depending on what region you are, I don't know if you heard of 409, but it's a cleaner. And I looked up, I had heard something about them and I looked it up, and it 100,000% fascinated me. So what happened is, so I'll explain how they got the name. So that's where the fascination for me came from. They tried to get a formula, which makes sense, that cleans and smells relatively good, that does what it's supposed to do, cleans effectively, but not overpowering, doesn't rip any paint off, doesn't, stain your counters and etc. So they did that and they tried different formulas. The first time they were like, nah, don't like that. The second time they were like, that's not quite it either. And they kept going and trying it and going and trying it. And 408 times they failed. And 409 is when they liked the formula. The 409th time is when they liked the formula. Ergo, the name is 409. And a lot of people don't know that. They just pick it up because they're like, hey, 409 is a great cleaner. I like it, etc. And this story is on their website for people like, you're making that up. It's on their website. So that was when I was like, wow, they failed 408 times. And yet we will have one little bump in the road, one issue, and we will totally give up. And here's a company that's willing to admit that they failed 408 times. I found that fascinating. And I'm so grateful for them for putting it on their website for us to find. And even though it's a great cleaner, it's also a great way for us to equate with some of the things we're going through, that we are so limited on what greatness looks like, what success looks like. And failure is so much part of success. And who knew 409?
wow, that is great. I had no idea. I've used 409 as a cleaner in my home, so that's awesome. I don't know that we have any questions, so if you want to do a few of your FAQs, that would be great.
Absolutely. So one of the common questions I get is, yeah, but how did you get to this point? Because I'm sure you didn't start off, all persistence pays off. That's true. That is 100% true. Actually, that job situation, that example I used, is 100% real. I know sometimes people are like, well, you make up stories sometimes and you think. Sometimes I will, if it helps with the story, but that is an absolute 100% true story that happened to me. I went for a job for a telecommunications company. They hired someone else. I went there later and I met the person who got the original job that I thought I wanted. And that was a real turning point for me, because when I say she was miserable, she was miserable. Her boss was horrible. And I came in, my boss was fantastic, and he was giving and he was caring, and my team was excellent. That was one of the times that kind of gave me pauses, so to speak. That I was like, if I was wrong about this, how many other times was I wrong? That's when my eyes kind of went. There's other times I wanted stuff that I may not deserve for whatever reason, or I should not have gotten for whatever reason. there's so many other factors that I'm not taking into consideration. There's been times when I went for a particular gig and I didn't get it and I was disappointed. And then someone called me for a gig 2 weeks later, the same date I would have been in the original gig. So I'm like, and it was really something fantastic. So it's the unexpected with the expected. I know that kind of doesn't make sense, but it's not knowing sometimes that I'm dodging trouble. So sometimes when I get a no, I say, did I just dodge trouble? I wonder. Or if it just wasn't for me, because there's obviously several possibilities. But sometimes I think I may have dodged trouble because I look at some of these artists out there. Sometimes I've been like, I would love to perform with so and so. I should reach out to so and so. And then I see him on the news later going, oh, so and so's a monster. I'm like, thank you. Didn't thank you. Divine, thank you. Thank you, Lord. So you just don't know sometimes why the no was there. So now I'm more accepting of the no because I don't know what was attached to the yes. So I know that's difficult, but not knowing what was attached to that yes can be a gift. Keep going to where you were supposed to be, because when you get the yes, that's where you're supposed to be. People say, get in where you fit in. No, get in where you're supposed to be. And then you can thrive and make other connections. And some of this is being willing to network and step outside your comfort zone, because a lot of us get so stringent. And I get it. It's scary out there to go and say, hi, my name. I know I hate it sometimes, right? We don't want to be like, what's your favorite food and what do you like? And I get it. It's not that, and I'm a talker, so then not my problem. But I get that everybody's not a talker. Everybody doesn't want to be networking and saying hi, 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 hi 15 times. It's stepping outside of your comfort zone to get what you really want. Haiku. If you won't step outside of your box, rewind that. If you won't think outside of your box, then you're living in a coffin. You got to be willing to get out of your own way sometimes. And sometimes getting out of your own way means doing something that's uncomfortable. That's how you meet people. Networking can really get you where you need to go. There's a lot more things and advances I get through networking than I get through cold calling, so to speak. Just strictly waiting for someone to say, hey, Kim, we think you're great. Would you like to come perform? They have to have heard of me somehow. So it's stepping outside of where your comfort is into the unknown, into the unknown. So I think if you're too comfortable, that's part of the problem. If you're 100% comfortable where you are, you're in a problem area. You should not be 100% comfortable. There should always be some discomfort because you're trying something new. That kind of goes with the process, so to speak. So if you find yourself 1,000% great where you are, that's great. But in order for you to grow, you're going to have to get uncomfortable. Kimism. If your dreams don't scare you, dream bigger. That means you're dreaming too small. You should be like, how am I going to accomplish this? How am I going to go about? If you're not, a little bit, dream bigger. Definitely dream bigger. The next frequently asked question I get is, what happens if the dream not fake, but really seems unobtainable? Then I say break it into steps. A dream seems unobtainable because you haven't made a plan. So when I would mentor or go into schools and stuff, and kids would be like, I want to be an astronaut. I didn't say astronaut. We don't even have a program. I said, really? Have you checked and see if there's any summer school activities? Any astronaut programs that are happening or taking place? What have you done to pursue that? What degree would you need? What area of study would you need? And they're like, oh, I don't. I said, well, it looks like that's something for you to research. So taking the unobtainable, it looks unobtainable because you haven't broken it into steps. Break it into steps so it's something that you can reach step at a time, step at a time. Yes, I have written a book. I have several books. My first book I decommissioned a while back, and that one was on parent alienation. That was in 2007. I wrote that. I currently teach parenting classes for the county. I absolutely love teaching parenting classes. I tell people parenting classes is the only thing. I tell people parenting is the only job you have where you get no instruction. They give you a 9-month-old and say, see ya. You can't even work at McDonald's without training, but they give you a whole human life and go, see ya, you'll be fine. No, you won't. So that one. And I have several poetry books out. One is, let's see, I'm trying to go in order. Poetically Inking, just me, my pen, and the mic. Christ gave me this pen, so I have to write the truth. My poetry is the beauty you overlook. So those are the 3 poetry books I have out now. I'm working on 2 haiku books, strictly haikus. All my poetry books have haiku in them and full poems. But the books I'm working on now are haiku books only. So it'll strictly be only haiku. And that one I hope to have out in the next month or 2. So those are the books I have.
So I'm so curious because the haikus, that was when I listened to you speak at the Women's Summit, that was something that I really enjoyed as you peppered the haiku throughout the session. And what led you to start writing haiku?
Great question. So I was at an open mic and my friend got up and did haiku. And I was like, what is that? So I came home and I researched them. I'm like, oh, Japanese poetry. Oh, really? They were really, oh, some were only on nature and some are on, oh, fascinating. And then I said, no, nope, I'm not doing that. I'm being truthful. I said, no. I said 17 syllables. Who can write in 17 syllables? That's not enough space. Maybe 17 words. Syllables? No, that's impossible. No. That's what I said. No. I'm not doing it. So then I said, well, because I just like writing full poems. You just write and stop when you finish. But I said, let me challenge myself. And normally when I hear myself say that to myself, I'm going to do it. So I challenged myself and I fell in love with haiku. I'm going to be honest. I just absolutely love them because it's really difficult to make a whole poem in 17 syllables. And there's a few of us who absolutely love it and thrive in it. So it's a great way to express yourself. And I think you have to, as a speaker, for me, it'll always include haiku because they're relevant to the subject. And I call them appetizers that people can snatch and eat. It's food for the soul that you can snatch and eat. So I will always do haiku, always include them because I think, and especially when you're in an environment where it's not poetry friendly, like I performed in clubs before, like I went to one event, it was in a club. I'm like, oh, are they going to stop the music? And then it's going to, no, they had the whole dance thing. And then they had the poets. I'm like, oh, this, I don't know how this is going to work out. Cause when you're dancing and everything and they're like, okay, it's time for poetry. The people are like, I'm like, oh no, we're going to get booed off. We're going to get booed. But they weren't. They were such a great audience. They were so receptive. But I started off with the haiku first. Get them the bite size. And then I went into a longer poem. So I think they can be great icebreakers and also great ways for people to remember things you said. It's not that people don't remember the other stuff, but haiku is a great way for people to get bite-sized poetry because, a lot of us, attention span is, so haiku is helpful there.
Well, Kim, I can't thank you enough for coming out and sharing your wisdom. I love your Kimisms and your haiku poetry. I was taking vigorous notes while you were speaking. So it's just the reminders that you give our community through your talk are poignant and so appropriate at a time whenever there's lots of changes and there's lots of stuff going on, and And it's such a great reminder of what we need to do to ensure our own personal growth and success as we go down our path. So I just want to extend a huge thank you to you for coming out this evening and sharing all your wisdom, and invite you back, next year. Women in STEM. We're going to have another Women's History Month. So we'd love to have you here again.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Shelley.
Thank you.